one that I thought about a lot is the answer to the question of like how have I felt different as a person since using Complice? That one's been really nice. Um, like one feeling I often had was that I would like never really know what was going on in my life. And it would really bother me in conversations when people would ask me stuff like, "What have you been up to lately? Like, what's on your mind?" And I'd just be sort of blank because it would take me a while to like reflect and like recollect what I've been working on and why. And I didn't have this like very clear like I didn't have like much of a practice of reflecting on what I'd been doing. And because I wasn't reflecting often on what I'd been doing, I didn't really know what I'd been doing. Like I would know at a local level as I was doing it. And like, things would bubble up to the surface and like pressures would arise in my life that I'd like, things would like there I got things done. Like I did a good job with my work, but like anytime there wasn't like a large amount of immediate pressure to do things, like the longer term planning, um, anything that required longer term planning, more initiative, more like disruption to my like daily routine, was really hard to pull off. And Complices solved that problem pretty well for me. Um, Not like flawlessly. Like I've been struggling to use it now that I have a daily routine that doesn't support it as well as my old one did. Um, but yeah, it's like allowed me to both like do more planning and also just like actually in a very funny way, like just feel more like conversationally competent and
Hmm.
conversationally comfortable because I have an overarching story to my life in a way I didn't before. Like I didn't have any like compelling narratives I could tell about myself because I didn't have I didn't like know the facts about my life, um,
Right. Yeah.
or like how I
So like
was spending
somebody
my
be like,
time.
"What have you been up to in the last month?" And you're like,
Yeah,
"Ah,
yeah, like working, and I guess I'm like going home for Thanksgiving soon, I guess.
yeah,
um, but yeah, like since I've been doing Complice, I can say like, oh yeah, I've had this like big goal of like tackling this problem and like writing these things, and I've like made some amount of progress towards them, and I'm pretty happy about it. Um,
yeah, awesome."
yeah,
And so I understand what Complice is obviously because I made it. But uh, if somebody didn't know what Complice was and they were like, "Oh, like how did it help you with those
yeah.
things?" Like, how would you describe that?
I think yeah, I mean, Complice is like a goal management suite, I guess, goal management service, goal management software. Um, and like the number one thing it did for me that helped me with this is like got me to like set goals and reflect often on my progress toward them and like just like look very directly at whether the things I was doing and whether they like helped me toward the goals and like repivot and think about them better. Um,
Hmm.
and like just like constantly face them um, and make it like yeah and like constantly like facing how well I did. And it doesn't feel when I say that, it sounds like it's like a pretty like judgmental difficult thing, like I need to be like forced to look at something. But i think I think it's like both true that I do need to be forced in a way to like look at stuff I'm doing. um like yeah, I feel like sort of by default I won't. um and yeah, it just like it like solves like this organizational problem I have where it's like blending time scales really nicely. Maybe that's a thing that's worth highlighting. Like like it like it joins like the little day-to-day actions you take and like the little boring steps that it takes to like get a big project done. It blends that with like I want like in a month's time to have done like a lot of things, or like in a year's time I want to have like tried something big. um, and it like translates well between those two, and it lets you like marry those two types of action.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
that's been really nice for me.
through like the reviews and so on, right?
Yeah, through the reviews, through the fact that like all the intentions you set have to be tagged with goals or like in the little miscellaneous goal.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at your account. It looks like you've done the reviews like quite consistently over the past months, or at least on
Yeah.
average, like I'm the main thing I'm looking at is just the ratio of reviews to like days that you've used the app, and um, and that ratio definitely implies that you're doing quite a lot um, with the reviews. And so I guess like, yeah, I'm curious if like was review it was like regular weekly and monthly reviews like a habit that you had before Complice, or was it something new that you got with using Complice?
It was something new I got with using Complice. And it was something I was like, that had interested me. I'd like heard about people doing it, but I'd never been able to do it.
Yeah. How did Complice make it like easy to do those reviews?
Well, one is that like it just like all the data is right there. Like like it's a fact that I want to it's a fact that I want to achieve the goals, right? Like sort of independent of using Complice, there are like things I want in my life, and Complice can like help me realize that I want them and like write them down, um, and realize that it's like a good idea and possible to go for them. Um, so that was one thing that Complice did. But the other really big thing, besides just like having me like admit the goals to myself and like start pursuing them kind of seriously, is that like, yeah, it's just like when you do the review, you are presented with like really good data on how well you pursued the goals, and that's really nice. Like that's something I don't get on my own. I'd have to like keep little logs and spreadsheets and tag them appropriately, and I wouldn't have that otherwise. And I can just like look back and not be focused on the reviews day to day, but like once a week or once a month or quarter or yearly, I see I see the progress I've made, and I like it's like a set aside opportunity to think about them, to think about the daily work.
Yeah. And that's what you were talking about earlier when you said it like integrates across timescales, right? It's like
Yeah. Yes.
you just each day you just do the daily stuff, and then it's like then you get to your weekly review, and it kind of collects, okay, here for this goal, here's what
Yeah.
you did this month or this week or this month. Here for this goal, here's what you did, and kind of presents that to you in a form that then lets you reflect on it with no additional like work to collect the
Yeah.
answer to the question, what did I even do? It's like that
Yeah.
information's right there. Like here's what you did,
Yeah.
here's
I
what you
agree.
intended to do and didn't. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
yeah. What would you say has been like your favorite, like, I don't know, review question to ask yourself? Like what feels like it gets you the most juice?
Ooh, let me pull some of them up. I've been slacking on reviews recently, so I'm not as familiar with them. Um, I'm just looking at a couple old ones. Let me grab one. Have a yearly review. Did I do a year-end review? Did I not do a year-end review? Because I started. I have not used Complice for more than 2 calendar years. The vision or theme is pretty nice. That was like a cool overall question in the quarterly review.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if there's anything. Well, one thing is that like I think I don't often like. I think one nice thing about Complice in general, of which this is an instance, is that Complice makes me take envisioning the future very seriously, and
Mm.
like it like the prompts that it has you do when you enter a goal, um, like it just like asks you like spell this out some more, like what's your vision for this? That's really useful. And like I like have these like sort of like aestheticized envisionings of what I want all the time, and most of the time in my day-to-day life and without Complice, I don't take them all that seriously, or like think it would be kind of annoying to try to pursue them and like disrupt the everyday stuff I'm working on. Um, yeah, Complice is a nice way of integrating those. So
Mm. So
that's
it
cool.
integrates like the kind of more mundane tasks with like, how do I like make little moves that make my future more beautiful?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or like, yeah, like make you realize that like the little mundane tasks should probably be oriented in large part towards like serving your long-term desires, like making
Right.
making the future more beautiful. I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
easy to get it. Yeah, it's easy for me to get caught up in a mindset where I'm not doing that. And I just like end up with a habit of like, yeah, a habit of like going to work because like people will be mad at me if I don't. And like, it's just like sort of the thing I do. I end up habituated and I don't like, I'm not pursuing anything much career with it. And I don't like that.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Can you are there some examples you're down to share about like kind of what sorts of goals you've been working on with Complice?
yeah. Let me pull up my list. Okay. Yeah. There are some that are like very like concrete and project based. Like some are like concrete and project based. Some are more like I want my life to include like a thing.
Mhm.
And like the thing one of the things I care about is like, you know, having cool ideas and like working through them and producing written output and yeah, just having cool ideas. Um, and so I've like used that to like, you know, get a personal blog up, make some posts on it. Um, I haven't been wildly successful with it, but I wouldn't have done it otherwise, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
And like it supported a daily writing practice for a while, and that was really nice. So that was one big goal. Yeah, what else? I used it to like navigate job transition. That was pretty good. Um, so like one goal I've had for a long time was just like I want to have a fulfilling career.
Hmm.
And I think like this Complice goal probably like having it sit every day as a goal that I saw and like, you know, I like bumped into it every weekly review. Um, made me ask myself like, am I getting what I want out of my career? Like, is the current job that I am doing like leading me to the place I want? Um, and yeah, I think eventually I realized no, not really. I could be doing a different one. And then I used that goal to like, you know, manage the search process for a new job and got a new job. It's pretty good. Um,
Nice.
and
Wow.
yeah, it worked. It was great.
Yeah. Sometimes like it really takes that sustained attention to the question to really feel into it.
Yeah,
Like if you had just been like, is this job fine or do I need a new job? You might have just sort of been like, well, I guess it's fine. But like
yeah,
you were sort of like, and you're asking kind of a deeper question. It's like, what does the future look like on many years? It's like,
yeah,
I want to be doing this job for many years. Like,
yeah,
kind of, um, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like the specific question I wrote was like, you know, I want my life's work to be something I care about. Um, I want to look back on my one precious life and have been proud of how I spent it. And like just seeing that a bunch made me realize like, oh wow, like yeah, I need to jobs in order to achieve that.
Yeah. Wow. Cool.
So that was a big one. Um, yeah, those are some good examples, I think.
Yeah.
There are more that were like way more one-off. Like one little example, I had uh, I had like not been thinking very hard about like AIX risk
Hmm.
sort of ever. I've been like interested in effective altruism. I'd heard people talking about it, and I kept like brushing it off as something I didn't care about that much, like wouldn't know how to deal with. Um, seems like sort of confusing. And then I realized that I should probably like take it seriously and like have some opinions about it. And so I set a goal for it. Um, I think toward that goal, I ended up like reading a few things, watching a bunch of videos, and yeah, I feel like much more like comfortable and competent when it comes to like thinking about this. And it hasn't like produced any like massive changes in me at the moment. Like in part because like I haven't, you know, fully digested on a deeper level like what any of it means. Like
Right. You're
I
kind of
think
still in process with that.
what's that?
You said it's like you're kind of still in process with that.
Yeah, yeah. Or like yeah, I haven't like intended to do anything about it. Or like I haven't intended to like continue processing. But I do know like as a matter of fact, like I don't know. I think I've like reached some like intellectual conclusion that uh it's a pretty like AIX risk is a very big deal and that I'm like underrating it. I think
Mhm.
also I've realized that I am like not like I haven't like emotionally integrated that or anything, and I haven't like
Totally. I mean, that's hard to do. I don't know if any of us have.
yeah, 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 yeah. But yeah, I don't like I don't act like it's like a massive deal in my day-to-day life, and like maybe I think ideally to have like really like close this out, like I will want to do that, but I haven't been working on that. So anyway, that's like one like more discrete time
Yeah.
bounded goal I've had.
Yeah. Cool. Um, so I'm interested in hearing more like kind of um where were you when you encountered Complice and what um yeah, I think you wrote in your survey there were kind of two win moments. Like one was when Complice you were setting your goals and Complice prompted you to think and envision and write more about them. It's like, oh, this is a tool for me, not just an annoying commitment device.
Hmm.
Um, and then the other was like, oh yeah, as you already talked about the reviews and reflections. So it's
Yeah.
like, where were you? You saw Complice, you were sort of, you weren't sure what it was. You thought maybe it would be more of a commitment device, but you signed up anyway, and then you were like, oh, this is like going to help me think about stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah. So where was I? Yeah, just like toned down from what I am now. Like I had things I wanted to achieve and I would just like didn't really achieve them. Um I didn't like pursue them that hard. I wasn't very like consistent across time. Like I'd want a thing. I'd want to do a thing and maybe I'd have like, a few weeks at best I'd have like a few weeks of like devoted energy to the thing. Um
mm,
so like I don't know if I have an example that I can pull up. Yeah, like looking for a job, like yeah, like the job search I did before this last one, the one I did before I had Complice,
mhm.
um, was like really sporadic. Like I'd like get really anxious about finding a job, yeah, the process would be like um, I'd like have like a little niggling feeling that I needed to find a new job, and then it would be like uncomfortable to think about, and I'd ignore it for like a month or two, and then I'd have it again, and I kept having it, and then I like realized I like really needed to pay attention to this. And then I like sort of in a panic, like did a bunch of stuff to try to find a new job, and it would maybe be like 2 weeks of sustained effort, and then I would be like, okay, I did the effort, and I didn't end up with a new job, but I did the effort, so now I feel okay about myself.
Mm,
And then I'd let like a month or two go by, and they'd be like, wait, I don't have a new job. What am I doing?
right.
um, and yeah, again, it was just like very local, like very like in response to like little local things and the people around me and like how annoying my job was at the time.
Yeah, it sounds
Um,
kind of like it was sort of reactive, like kind of stress
yeah,
driven,
I
as
think that's
opposed
right.
to kind of bigger picture vision driven.
Yeah, that's right. And I think a lot of my life was like that. Um, Not just the job stuff.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Wow, that's a great example. Like I love how you can contrast like what it was like before with what it was like after. It's like
yeah,
um yeah, that feels
yeah,
very vivid.
yeah. And it's not 100% like it's not the case that I like pursue every goal every day with like complete attention, right? There are like I have goals that I like shelf sort of intentionally for like a few weeks at a time. But every
Yeah.
week I check in and I say like, yeah, I'm putting this on the sideline right now because there's something more urgent, and I'm aware that like I will get back to this eventually if it's still important to me. But like right now, like career goal is more important than like lifting goal, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I think that's like generally how I went. And sometimes it wasn't reactive only. Like sometimes I would get like actually genuinely excited about a thing. Um, I really still can't remember the last really big pre-Complice like spurt of energy. But yeah, there would be like a spurt of energy to like, learn a lot about like I was like really into carbon capture and storage for a while. Um, just like as a technology, I wanted to understand it better. I wanted to maybe do some writing about it. I didn't have Complice. I spent, maybe a couple weeks reading a lot about it, writing not that many notes, and I wanted to like eventually compile them into something. And yeah, like I wasn't that deeply committed to it. And then I got distracted by something else, and I like shelved it sort of indefinitely.
Mm.
And that was not
So
ideal.
Did that have a feeling of like it just kind of fizzled?
Um, the feeling was, I don't know about that. Like the feeling that I remember was like I was pretty excited about it. It also felt like big and sort of unmanageable as a project.
Mhm.
The writing a big post about carbon capture and storage. And then like I got distracted and I didn't like leave myself enough like leads to follow to get back to the state of knowledge I had when I was excited about it. And
Mm,
I didn't like store a nice like comprehensible state of what I was, where I was. So like in order to get back into it, I would have to like really reconstruct a lot of stuff.
right. Yeah.
Um, so that's maybe like I don't know how like much Complice would have fixed that besides like, you know, making me commit a little more concretely and steadily to it.
Yeah. Cool. Um, well, I think I mean, that feels like a really great amount of stuff. Like, I feel like
Cool.
I got a lot out of this. And,
Nice. That's
yeah.
great. Cool. Um, yeah. Um, yeah. I'm curious whether you've like thought about like fitness people as a good audience for Complice. That was one that was like pretty surprising and like when I started thinking about it, I realized it's like a nice application for me specifically. And
Hmm.
like there are probably people like me
How do
out
you
there.
use it for like fitness stuff?
I've used it in maybe two or three different ways. Um, one was like I think for a long time I just had a goal of like staying active often.
Mhm.
So I have like a recurring daily goal to like get some exercise of some kind. Um, and then I think twice I had like two or three times I had like specific other goals that I wanted to add in. So one was like I wanted to like get good at running. So I like made a running training plan and had that as a daily recurring goal. And I think that was like not the right cadence. I should have had it fewer times per week.
Mhm.
Um, I had and then I had like a weight cut that I managed through Complice. Not super like, in not the most detailed way, but like, yeah, I like had this like very time bounded thing I wanted to do, where like, you know, I wanted to go from, yeah, I wanted to like keep on muscle, lose some fat. It was like a very concrete amount of fat I wanted to lose. Um, and so I had like daily recurring goals or daily recurring intentions to just like weigh myself and like track my calories with an app that I have.
Yeah.
And it went well. I think I don't know like how much of it's like a killer app for Complice, but I think like there are definitely people for whom the like the like envisioning stuff could be like I think like pretty nice for like setting a goal in the first place and realizing you want the goal and like what specific things you want out of the fitness goals. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so
My guess is that where Accomplice really shines there, and I'm interested in whether you think so as well, is the like the weekly and monthly reviews and stuff. Because it's like there's lots of little apps for just like tracking
yeah,
whether you're, you know, tracking your weight, tracking your workouts,
yeah,
all of those. There's tons of apps for that, but none of them kind of create a context for you to reflect on like how is this all going? You
yeah,
know, first of all, am I checking in with the app regularly? Like, you
yeah,
know, the habit tracker app can nudge you, but it's not going to create a context for you to be like, wait, am I even doing the thing? And then like
yeah,
it's also not going to be, you know, the habit tracker app isn't going to be asking you should you be using another app to track all this stuff, right? Like
yeah,
whereas it's like Complice can kind of like be that on the meta level. Like, does that
yeah.
feel true about like the kind of difference that it made? Like if you hadn't done any other reviews, like would that have kind of diminished a lot of the value of the like trying to use Complice for fitness or
Yeah. I think the thing is that like I basically agree with you. Um, well, yeah, I don't know how much the reviews helped the school specifically. I think if I hadn't been one thing that Complice does nicely is that it's like fun and pleasant to use, and I check
Mhm.
in on it with respect to all my goals all like often, like pretty much every day. Um, and because I do that, like having the intention to like lift or be otherwise active every day. That's really nice. And like it's like less annoying than a habit tracker app or just like a lifting app that like sends me notifications.
Where it sort of feels more integrated and like holistic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess my goals are like the context setting is like not that important for me in particular, but I bet there are probably people for whom it is. I don't know.
Hmm.
And like, yeah, they like I could see it being useful to like often face like why you're doing the thing and like why you care about why you care about fitness and why you care about the specific kinds of fitness and like the things you're doing to pursue fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm looking at the text I wrote under my goal, and it's good. Like it's really nice. I kind of wish saw it more often because when I look at my intentions day to day, I see that like I don't do it every day. Like I'm not given the vision every day, and I'm not like as motivated as I could be to do the lifting that I want to do.
Yeah, there's something I want to plug in there a bit more, and I haven't yet figured out how. One of the things I've been working on is a system that lets you basically it separates out a goal's like nickname from its target. So you can sort of have a really short handle for the goal. It could just be something like fitness or
Mhm.
lose weight or something, so it's just like really,
Yeah,
really short. Or maybe it's just the name of the target weight. I don't know, whatever. Or like,
yeah.
or the goal could be something like amazing career, right? Like amazing
Mhm.
career doesn't actually specify, it sort of specifies the state of the world, but it's pretty hazy, right?
Yeah.
But then so that's the kind of the goal nickname. And then the goal target is sort of like a full sentence length of like a description of the state of the world that you're aiming for.
Yeah.
And so I have an experimental feature inside Complice, which you can turn on if you want, that will sort of break
Oh,
those out
cool.
for you. And then it shows the longer names in a few places inside the app, which like during the outcomes, instead of just showing the nickname, it shows like the whole target.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, if you want that, it's in the drop down in the top right. Like you hit labs and then it's like
Cool.
separate goal, nickname, and target. I'm
Yeah, I'll
planning
give
to
that a
ship that to
shot.
everybody in like the next probably couple weeks.
Oh, cool.
But
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I just yeah. 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 Sorry, I just I hadn't been like on top of my top priorities. Those are like really those are a nice in between too. That
mm,
like that like yeah, that's been useful. And I bring it up just because it does like a bit of this time scale marrying and like it is one thing that like is like close to me every day when I'm like setting intentions. That's
right,
another nice
exactly.
feature
Yeah.
useful here. Yeah, cool.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean that feels pretty good.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah.